Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Drive Time. Every time I watch that intro, I see my cat shirt that I had on, and I just chuckle at it. It just makes me laugh. I don't know why. It's just so funny. That's the shirt that will be with us for every single show. But anyway, welcome to Drive Time, everybody, and I hope you're all having a great Monday. It's a little tense out there in the world right now, so I understand it. I'm actually not wearing a jersey today. I went with a Toronto Blue Jay shirt with the big red Canadian flag. And, I always promise I'm going to try to stay out of politics on this show. So we're just going to leave it at that as to what I'm wearing today, that I'm going with my Toronto Blue Jays shirt. And you can make of that as you'd like. But anyway, welcome to Drive Time, everyone. And of course, we always start with a look in the rearview mirrors over some of the things that happened. And I always hate starting a show with a rest in peace. But sadly, we have to do it again today. And with that, it's time that unfortunately we sadly say, rest in peace to poop. Now, maybe you're not familiar with what we're talking about, but you probably may have seen it come over last week. I think it was the Philadelphia Phillies that, everyone has their little score bugs and stuff, and theirs would be the logo of the two teams. So whenever the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Philadelphia Phillies would play each other, it would be the P for the one team. The score would be 0-0, of course, because it's the start of the game, and then the P at the end for the other team. So it would always read poop. And I have a love for potty humor. I just do. I'm sorry, I do. So every now and then, every time I would almost purposely through the magic of MLB TV find the Philly broadcast just so that way I could see poop show up at the start of every game. But unfortunately, they have changed their score bug, so we will no longer have poop to look at when the Phillies and Pirates play each other. So with that, we sadly say rest in peace to poop. All right. Now, had to have a little chuckle there too. It's always good to have a little chuckle from time to time. So we start off too. There was the big rematch earlier this week where the Lakers beat the Dallas Mavericks. It was the return for Luka, and all he did was just have a triple double. Ho hum, another triple double. The Lakers are on fire, folks. Since this trade, they're 8-2. I think they're starting to believe that this team might be a team, and I think I know OKC is the favorite out west. I don't know. There's something about seeing some of these Lakers games since this trade that if they can keep everybody healthy, I think it's just going to be an interesting a team to watch. And the other interesting team to watch is one that I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I was out Friday night at the Monsters game, which is the AHL affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and we'll get more about into the Blue Jackets and their big game from the weekend later on. But with that, it was kind of funny because I got a text from the gentleman Jack. I honestly had not even looked at the score, and he sent me a big "Go Celtics" text. So I'm like, okay, clearly I can read between the lines here, and I figured that the Celtics were killing them. And then I look and I see the score is 25-3 Celtics. 8 minutes into the game, so I'm like, well, this is not looking good for the Cavs, And I'll be honest, I wasn't able to watch any of this game at all, other than watching the score through the phone and watching occasional bits and pieces in between periods. But everyone around is kind of talking about the game because the hockey game's a minor league hockey game, and the Cavs are just doing what they're doing, and you can hear people talking, and it is they're only down, hey, the lead's cut down to 11, and then it's oh, hey, the lead's cut down to 6. And then, the Boston goes back on another run, and the leads back up to 12 or 13. And, I'm getting texts back and forth between Jack and I. And, I'm just staying cool about it. I'm trying to let Jack have his moment here because I know how much he hates the Cavs. And so I'm letting him have his time and just enjoying the fact that the Celtics are looking pretty good. And then, you get to third quarter, and the Cavs just keep creeping away. And the next thing you know, like, it was like 6 people within the stands, and we're all almost at the same time, holy shit, the Cavs got the lead. And then from there on out, everyone just started, like the buzz in the arena was going on. And the weird part is right around the same time, the Monsters that play like garbage the whole game, they score a goal, get the game to overtime, and they win the game. A game that they honestly didn't deserve to win. Jet Grease, which is their goalie, made 43 saves. He was incredible. But that's not the reason for the story. But the whole thing is that then, of course, going out of the game, it's right when the Cavs game is ending, and it's just bedlam going out into the garage. one thing about Cleveland sports, and I know other cities do this. This town just loves it when their teams hustle and win. They only have necessarily, like the Guards are always a good example. They don't necessarily need the team to win it all. They just like it when they have a team that puts forth a good effort. And the Browns don't give that to them. So this city has really gotten behind this Cavs team, mostly because the nation doesn't give them much credit. And with that, that is another thing that Cleveland fans just love. The whole Cleveland against the world thing is just it's just what the city lives for. So with that, like horns are honking, they're just going crazy. And it was actually a neat experience to be a part of. Just even though the game wasn't there, it was in Boston, but clearly everyone was watching it on their phones and reacting to it. And this Cavs team, ladies and gentlemen, is 50-10. They almost blew it on Sunday. They had a close game to Portland, but I wasn't surprised. That was your trap game if you're ever going to have a trap game. But they survived it, and here they are at 50-10. They're on a 10-game winning streak. It's just this team just doesn't quit winning games, and it's just so funny. Everyone keeps saying that this team isn't that good and they're not going to do either. And look, they split the season series with the Celtics. They went 2-2. Am I here to tell you that the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to win this whole thing? I don't know, but I definitely know this much: that team can win it all. They have everybody that they need, to go on a run as long as they can stay healthy. They definitely have the it factor, I think, that a team needs. And what I think would just be kind of interesting, the Lakers are on the same run. And doesn't it just seem like we could have a fun, interesting collision course of the Lakers and the team that LeBron is currently on going against his former team, the Cleveland Cavaliers? I don't know. Could it happen? Maybe. Would it be must-see TV? Probably so. Yeah, I think that might be a one that the NBA would love to see happen if it can happen. I'm sure they would also love a Boston Lakers rematch again, but you couldn't you wouldn't go wrong either if you got LeBron going up against his old team. So look, I am not the basketball expert. I don't profess to be one. I am a casual fan at best. When it comes to the NBA, honestly, that I've lost a lot of my love for the NBA years back, but I'm trying. I'm trying since I've been on here to at least, to do my part to be able to talk reasonably about the sport of basketball. And if anyone's on there, watching, you've got some comments on it, feel free to drop in and I will throw you on here because I give to the rest of you guys about some of the stuff in basketball. But personally, I'd love to see a Cavs Lakers final. I think that would be great TV. I just would love to see the Cavs do it. Just in a big way, it'd be another way for Cleveland to give a little FU bomb to the world, which this city loves. And to be honest with you, this city might need it. And the reason why I say the city might need it is because of this next subject. The Myles Garrett saga is. Oh, hold on, we got a comment here. So let me go to this comment here real quick because I might be able to do that here for. Um, Let's see here. Oh, from Sidelines Junkie Pat, I told Jack that they would win 60 this year. Well, they've won 60. Well, yeah, they could. Well, they just got a little work to do for 60, but yeah, they could win 60. And there's a little thing that I saw that was great. It said who's won 50 games, and it was I think even KJ might have been you that put it on there. I can't remember who put it on there, but it was no, it's only March 5th, and the Cleveland Cavaliers like, yep, that's us. So anyway, that was good stuff. But now we got to get back to this. The Myles Garrett saga. And, if anything, Cleveland sports also knows how to do. It's how to have something happen with the Browns that just makes you scratch your head, or what's the old song go, things that make you go, hmm. That's the Cleveland Browns, ladies and gentlemen. They are a team that makes you go, hmm, all the time. But anyway, Andrew Berry came out at the NFL Combine and says the Browns aren't trading Myles Garrett. That there's nothing they're going to trade him for. They even offered him a 5-year contract extension. They're going to make him the highest paid player in the game. And Myles Garrett has said, thanks, but no thanks. This isn't about the money. He wants to go somewhere where he can win. I don't know where this is going to go, folks. I mean, Myles Garrett says he went out. The problem is, though, the way that they structured his deal and so many of these other deals, the Browns have so much dead cap space. I don't really know that they can move him. He just may not even be tradable at this point in time because the way that his cap hit is going to be, it's just going to be really hard for that to happen. So I don't know, where this is going to go. It's going to be kind of crazy to watch here, but you got a team saying they ain't going to trade him, and you got a player saying that he wants out. He's got 2 years left on his deal. So, this seems to be heading towards where I'm sure when we get to the point in time where camps start opening up, that I bet Myles Garrett isn't going to be there. But, it's one of those weird ones. I don't know if either side has leverage. Myles Garrett really doesn't have any leverage. He's got 2 years left on the deal. He can't really force the Browns to do anything. The Browns could go totally, if he does decide he wants to sit for 2 years, they could franchise tag him after this. So it's gonna be crazy to see how this goes with Myles Garrett. I just don't really know. I wasn't able to make a banner for this, but the Cincinnati Bengals. Speaking of a team putting the franchise tag on someone, did do that with T. Higgins today. So he's not going anywhere in the free agent market if you're hoping for. Now we'll see how that all plays out too. But with the fact that they did put the franchise tag on him today, that just happened. I just saw that. So I did not get a chance to make the banner for it. But I know a lot of people, maybe AKA fantasy team owners, were hoping that he might go somewhere else. But it looks like he's going to be staying a Cincinnati Bengal. That could still be a good thing too if you got him on your fantasy team. One of the big quarterbacks is not going anywhere, and that is Matt Stafford. He restructured his deal, which I thought was going to be hard for the Rams to get what they thought that they're going to get for him anyway. So they restructure his deal, and he will remain a Ram. So the big free agent, not even free agent, but the big quarterback that a lot of people had, everyone, I think there were supposedly, I think there was about 42 NFL teams that were rumored to be in the trade market for Matt Stafford. So he appears to be off the market. He restructures his deal with them, and we'll see what this means as the draft and free agency gets closer and closer and closer to where we're at. So next up is, of course, the big trade that the Commanders made. They get Samuel from San Francisco for a fifth-round pick, and I was in the comments when the guys were talking about this yesterday. I think this is a win-win for the Commanders. It's a low-risk, high-reward maneuver. You're giving up a fifth-round pick for a guy that clearly has talent. Now, there's a little rumors about his weight and about his workout, and it seems like that's kind of familiar to another player that just recently got traded. But yeah, here we are. So I think he is really going to shape up fine. I think it's a great move. Like I said, if he doesn't pan out, you give up a fifth-round pick. If it does, you got a guy going with McLaren on the other side. And whatever moves they make, I know they got some free agents, and you're going to probably see them draft another wide receiver too. But this league, you need wide receivers. It's just a wide receiver-driven league. He can provide them with what they need 100%. I think it's just going to be a way for this team to take off and go places. So kudos to the Washington Commanders. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit jealous of the Commanders and where they're at. They just keep that they make these moves that are great. And being a sad, pathetic Raider fan, I'm jealous. I'll admit it. I'm jealous. So good for you guys. I hope it works out well for the Commanders. But I think it will. Jimmy Johnson announced today that he is retiring from TV, and this now I'm actually kind of glad to see this because I remember we were watching the pregame show, and they did that weird AI thing with Jimmy Johnson all throughout his career, and I thought, what the hell is this? And then I thought about it, and it's like, well, okay, maybe it makes sense because this is on Fox. He's probably planning on retiring. He probably won't, maybe he's thinking he's going to retire before another Super Bowl. Turns out he's done after, that he's going to say goodbye now. Yeah, he was great on Fox Sports. I just thought that AI thing was just weird. I'm like, why is he an AI? It was just weird. It's just weird to me. But anyway, congrats to Jimmy Johnson on a great TV career. I thought he did great on the Fox show. Made it to me where I actually liked the Fox show a little bit better than the other ones. Let's see here. What's Chuck say here? Are the Raiders eliminated from next year's playoffs already? Man, I hope not. I really hope not. I don't know what the hell we're going to do at quarterback. I really don't. But I saw Pete Carroll talk at the draft combine too, and I'll be honest with you. I loved hearing what he had to say. He says all the right things, so we'll see. But they do have a lot of cap space. Mark Davis says that he's going to use the cap space, but will they use it well? That's the whole key: is can they draft well, and will they use it well? And in the years past, it just doesn't seem to be the case for them. So we'll see what the Raiders do, but that we will have to see here. Hold on, I do need to do this here real quick. My wife's asking what time we leave for a flight on Thursday, so I got to text her the time here, just real quick. Just bear with me. This is where if I had a co-host, I could do something like this, but you guys could see that on live TV, not TV. Why am I saying TV? Well, you know what I mean. Anyway, all right. So there we go. There's some big stuff. I'm going to have some other stuff later dealing with some baseball stuff, but it is time to drive to the net. And of course, this is my favorite part of the show. I'll be honest with you. I love talking hockey with you guys, and maybe if somehow I can get you guys into the sport of hockey a little bit, where you guys watch occasional couple games here, that's always a good thing here too. Let's see here. What does from talking about the Fox Sports, when is Bradshaw going to retire? I don't know. That's a good question. Will he retire? But man, that like if he does retire, you're talking about you got to do a whole another thing here. Sideline junkies. Jimmy had a great TV career. I agree, and he had a great coaching career. I mean, you can't argue with what he did as a coach either. We'll be interested to see if he stays retired. Does he come back? He could, but we'll see how that goes. So I don't know where it's going to go with those guys, but I think Bradshaw will stay for a couple more years. It's a great gig, right? So I was actually kind of surprised that Jimmy is leaving now, to be honest with you. So, all right, it's time to drive to the net. And I talked about this last week of would we see the NHL get a ratings bump after the Four Nations? And, I was kind of hoping we're going to get into the Stadium Series game a little bit later on because I was there and it was awesome, but that's a whole nother subject line. But did the NHL get a bump from the Stadium Series? And I went back, found the numbers for the first series. The Caps and Pens and the Wild and Red Wings, they averaged 1.1 million and just under a million for each game, which was up 15% and 21% from the games that were in those spots a year ago. So the casual answer is yes, it seems like so. And then even the games on Sunday one game saw a 6% raise. The other game, which was the Orioles Capitals game, which of course Ovi had that hat trick that game, was 20% higher. So they did see a slight bump. Now, what I want to see is where the Stadium Series did, because that was the next big NHL event. ESPN kind of screwed up some of that, but I want to save that for later. So we'll see what happens there with that part of it. So, I think they did okay there on that side of it. We'll see where I want to see where this is. I just checked again before the show started to see those numbers come in, because they usually come in Monday night or Tuesday. Unfortunately, they're not out yet. So because the Stadium Series 10s the last 2 years have done really well. The one that was in Raleigh was a 1.1 million watched it. The next one was 1.4 the following year, which was the New York Series, where they had both the Rangers and the Devils host a game. And so that was kind of cool to see. Or excuse me, yeah, it was Devils that hosted one, and I think it was the Rangers, and they played the Islanders and the Flyers, the four basic teams from that area. So we'll see where this one goes. So, but we do have also coming up here, the trade deadline is fast approaching. That is March 7th. It is right here, ready to go. It's been kind of quiet. We do have one trade that we can get into a little bit, but I'm going to save that trade for the team that I want to talk about. But there was kind of that little rush of trades before the Four Nations, which we talked about before, where this tournament was going to maybe kind of create a pseudo trade deadline. So will we see anything over these next 4 days? I don't honestly know. And the big reason why is because there are a lot of teams still in this thing, especially in the East. Every team but one is 8 points or less out of a playoff spot. 7 are within 5 points of the playoff spot. In the West, there's a few less teams. There's only 6 teams within 9 points. But really, there's only 4 teams right now in the NHL that you look at and say, yeah, those teams are toast. They've got no chance. Everyone else, if things went just right, could make a run. So I don't know that we're going to see a lot of sellers. You could see some teams sell and then turn around and make a move that looks like they're buying. I could see some of that. The big talk is, of course, the Canes, who picked up Rantanen from not from Columbus, but from Colorado. They offered him a big a 9-figure contract over 8 years. He has not signed it yet. A lot of rumors out there that if they can't get him signed long term, that because last year the Canes made a similar move for Jake Gensel, it didn't work out. Gensel did not re-sign with them. That they might be willing on saying goodbye to him. But so far that he hasn't signed a deal, but they both sides are saying they're going to work on it. So the latest out of Carolina is that they are not going to trade him before March 7th hits one way or the other. I don't know if something goes south quickly. I could see them trying to get some return. They're not going to get what they gave up for him, but I don't know that they're going to be willing on just letting another superstar walk. And where that goes, I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's not going to be good for Carolina if you make two big moves like this, and both years you can't get the guy to sign long term. Miko's got friends on that team. I think he will sign there. I think some of it is too just for shock for him. He wasn't expecting this trade in the first place. So where this all goes with him is it's going to be it'll be time will tell. There's been rumors out there that the Pens might actually be willing on moving Sidney Crosby. The Pens are probably one of those teams that are really not in it right now. Will they move Sid to give him another shot at a title? He's not a UVA. He's got one more year left after this contract. So there'd be some weird stuff to move out. There has always been rumors that he might end up out in Colorado. That part of why they moved Rantanen was because to free up some space. I'm going to give one other wild card here in a second. But again, I want to hold off on that. We're going to tease that just a little bit further. Will Boston move Brad Marchand? Boston is another one of those teams right now. They're on the outside looking in, but they're a team that could make a move to try to get in there. We'll see if that happens or not. Excuse me, my cat is coming across the screen right there. Never fails with that cat. The Washington Caps, though, also did, I think, a very good move today. They re-signed goalie Charlie Lindgren to a 3-year deal. He gets 3 years at $9 million. That's a solid contract for a goalie who's been really solid for the Washington Capitals. 51, 37, and 13 as a cap, a 2.78 goals against average, and a 905 save percentage with Washington. So that's a positive move for Washington. I don't think that they would have been in a move for a goalie, but he was going to be a UVA, so sometimes you could have maybe looked at maybe moving him, but that takes care of that for Washington. What does New Jersey do? Because Jack Hughes had a brutal injury in the game last night, coming off a very disappointing Four Nations tournament where he really didn't show up at all there. And then he goes headfirst into the boards. They've not really discussed how long this injury is going to be. So we'll see how that all plays out. My team to watch is the team that made already the first trade. They made a trade over the weekend, which they traded for Seth Jones, a defenseman from the Chicago Blackhawks. And this is the Florida Panthers. This is a team that's going to be very interesting this trade deadline to watch, and I think it's going to be very active. They've already made the one deal. They trade for Seth Jones. They give up Spencer Knight, one of their goalie prospects, who honestly in his time in Florida hasn't been that great. He's been a lot of it at the AAA team, which is the Charlotte Checkers, where he's been good, not great. But of course, they have Bob in goal for them. So there really is no path forward, which I never understood why they gave both of these guys two pretty big contracts for similar term, and it didn't make sense to me. So moving that Spencer Knight contract is huge for them. They add a great D in Seth Jones, he's gone through a few different teams. He's been in Columbus, he's been in Chicago, and I kind of say he's been stuck in Chicago on just really terrible teams. But he's a solid 3-4 guy at this point in time in his career. He's going to add that little bit of flair on the D2, and he's not afraid to hit. And Bill Zito is just a great GM because he finds these ways of tinkering. I mean, the Florida Panthers are defending Stanley Cup champions. They very easily could just sit back and say, no, we're just going to ride. And he doesn't. He keeps tinkering. He finds these type of moves that make sense for the team, that make sense for this. The bad news for the Florida Panthers is Matt Tkachuk, who did get injured in the Four Nations tournament with a hamstring. They have decided to put him on what's called LTIR, or long-term injury list. And what this does do is this frees up $8 million in cap space, because basically the NHL has this weird little loophole in the thing where you put these players on LTIR, and during the regular season there is a salary cap that the team has to stay within. But if you put a term on long term, that means that they have to be out at least 6 weeks, which he's clearly going to be out for that. Then they can add him back onto the roster. But if they don't do that until the playoffs, once the playoffs are done, you can have as many guys on your roster as you want. You can only have so many that actually start each game, but they can be on your roster, and the cap goes away. So the Las Vegas Golden Knights were known for doing this with Mark Stone and a couple other players, where they basically would hide them on LTIR until the playoffs, and then they are magically healthy at the playoffs when there's no salary cap. They can bring all these guys back in. And that's why I say when we talk about Sidney Crosby, just watch out for him with Florida. I, it's a fit that makes sense. If for whatever reason Kachuk can't go when it comes to playoff time, you bring in a guy like Sid the Kid. He's going to be eager. He's going to want to win another cup. He's on a proven winner. Like you talk about everything being a perfect formula for a place for a guy to go. It's Florida. So that's going to be my little thing of let's see if they move Sydney. Now, again, we talk about this all the time with Ovi from last year when this was a concern for the Washington Capitals, who figured out the way to retool. The Pittsburgh Penguins have not done that. They are floundering. They basically have, they've gotten old quick, and their young talent is not doing what the Washington Capitals have seen. So will they be willing on making a move and moving one of the great all-time players? I don't know. That's what we'll have to wait and see. But if they do, Florida and Colorado would be my guess for the landing spots. All right. We talked about the Washington Capitals. Let's get into the Ovi watch. He scores 2 more goals this week. So he has 31 goals in 44 games. He now only needs 10 goals to tie Wayne Gretzky and 11 to break the record. He's on pace to score 47, so that is 16 more goals that he would score. He's projected right now to beat the record with 7 games left in the regular season at home against Chicago. So right now, that's where that pace is. It looks like it's going to be somewhere in those first few games in April. And I heard something where Joe Beninati who's been the longtime Washington Caps TV guy. He's been doing the Caps forever. He's great. He's one of the all-time greats, honestly. And when I lived in the DC area, he called the Caps games, and he's still doing it today. And he's talking about that he hopes that he gets to be on the air for that call. I hope he is too. He should be on that call. The problem is of their last 8 games, 4 of them are on the national broadcast between TNT and ESPN. I hope somehow TNT or ESPN can figure out a way to make it work. But we'll see here. Yes, I'm trying to get a special guest on the show, but we're seeing here. I'm trying to get somebody on here, but they're having trouble logging in. I sent them something, so give me one second here. I'm just going to stall here for a couple seconds here. So, we'll see where he breaks that record at. I think it's going to be interesting to see where that all goes. So, what I'm going to do real quick is this. I'm going to try something here because I've never done this here. This is going to buy me a little bit of time where you guys don't have to see me here, and I'm going to try to see if I can help this person get on there. So, this is one of these neat little commercial breaks here. I'm going to try to show here. Let's see if this works. All right, that was kind of cool though, at least, right? So anyway, let me see here. What I'm trying to do is get my daughter on here for this next segment here. So I sent her a little link here to see here. I'm looking to see here if it went through okay. So give me a second here. Yeah, all right, so let's see here. Invite. I'm going to try this here again real quick. We'll see if we can get her in here. Give me a second, guys. I know this is weird doing this on live TV, but it's going to be worth it, I hope. I promise you. So let's see here. All right, sent that to her again. I'm trying to get my daughter on here for this next sections because what I'm going to get into right now is the Stadium Series recap. So I am going to, while we wait for her, let's see here if this works. I'm getting better at some of this stuff, guys. I promise I am. So Windows, that one, share. Let's see if this works. Hold on, it's thinking about it. I got the little spinning wheel. We'll see if these pull up here or not. It might be too much. Let's pull that deck down. Let's see here. That helps. Earlier today, this was working, of course, but I was going to share some of the pictures from the Stadium Series game. So anyway, Stadium Series, this is the outdoor hockey game. Hey, there we go. It finally pulled up. There we go. This is the outdoor hockey game. There are 2 of them that the NHL does every year. There's the Winter Classic that takes place in various cities, and then they do the Stadium Series. It's kind of the Winter Classic is the one that's always around New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, depending on where it goes. But This one is done in different ones. It usually has a different vibe. The uniforms are different. This one, of course, was down in Columbus, Ohio, at Ohio Stadium, which is where the Ohio State Buckeyes play football. The Columbus Blue Jackets were in it against the Detroit Red Wings. So what I'm going to do is a little show and tell, and then we'll see if my guests can arrive here. So this is my son Jared. This is we got there. The game was not supposed to start till 6. Oh, hold on here. Let's see here at the stage. Arrive here. So this is my son.
Hello.
This might be working here. Trying to get her on here. All right, we'll see here. It's got the little double arrow here. So speaking of Showtime, Sarah, if she's able to get in here, there's my daughter Sarah. So that these are a couple of the pictures there from the pregame show. So we got there about 9-10 o'clock in the morning. It was already a little cold there, for sure. But needless to say, it was not that many people had arrived yet. The game time temp was supposed to be around 28 degrees. We were looking at about 25. So let's see here. She's trying to get in here. Not yet. Trying. Yep. Yeah, she's seeing it. So eventually here, we might be able to get in here. Let's try it this way. I'm going to try to do this. Let's stop sharing the screen here for a second. Then let's see that lets her in.
Hello.
She's trying to come up. It's just this big little arrow. So her connection at home might not be that good. So while she's trying to come up. So anyway, so those were the pregame. It was kind of a neat little thing. And it's still beeping at her, but she's not able to get in here. So then we went through, let's see here. There we go, that one here. While she still keeps trying to get in here, we'll do this here. It's a 100,000 seat stadium for anyone that's not been in there for football. It seats over 1,000. There she is.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
What's up? She made it. Anyway, everyone, this is my daughter, Sarah, aka some of you may know her as Showtime Sarah, because that's her little thing that KG gave her. So let's see here what we have in here. We can see her. Yes, she is on now. This is great. So, all right. So everyone, this is my daughter, Sarah. So I thought this would be fun to bring her in. And the reason is because she was one of the ones there. So Sarah, I'm going to actually give you the floor because it's not showing the pictures here anyway. What did you think of the Stadium Series in Columbus, your first time ever seeing Ohio Stadium?
So our first Stadium Series that we went to 2 years ago was Carter Finley. The size difference is bizarre. I love Carter Finley. Go Pack, obviously, but like Ohio Stadium. It's a different level, for sure. Me and Dad already talked about Matty Ice. Already talked about it. But
you can call me Dad. That's fine.
Raleigh had the better tailgating experience for sure. Raleigh just does things different. We know how to tailgate, but like the overall game experience is definitely different than Raleigh at all. Like Ohio State, it was just bizarre, basically.
Yeah, so anyone that doesn't know, Carter Finley is where the NC State Wolfpack play their football games, and that's where Raleigh, which had the Stadium Series game 2 years ago that we did get to attend as well. That's where NC State plays. It seats about what, 60,000, Sarah, I think?
Maybe. I don't know on the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's about 60,000, something like that. So anyway, so yeah, so this is definitely way bigger, right? So there's a couple more of the pictures of us. This is at their little fan section now. This fan section was packed. But we did get a couple pictures with everybody there. And you can see it was definitely cold. Sarah, how cold was it when we were there?
It was a different kind of cold. That's probably like the coldest temperature I've ever been in. Like, and it probably will be for a long time, unless like whenever I'm visiting Ohio in the winter, a whole storm appears. But what was it, like 27 felt like 15?
Yeah, that's what they told us anyway.
That was, I mean, North Carolina just had like 3 winter storms. I thought that was good enough. I thought that was the best cold, and no, got one up there.
Yes, it was definitely cold. We could not feel our feet at the end of the day. Now beforehand, there was a little concert that they did at a little place called St. John's, yeah, St. John's Arena, which is where the basketball team used to play. Ohio State has actually three different basketball stadiums. There's the Shot Center, which is where all the big games are at, and the concerts go to. There's the middle one, which is Value City Arena, and then there's this old little one, which is called St. John's. The band OAR performed there. Um, Ohio State came out in their what both teams did, which was amazing. Again, if I'm sure by now I've talked about so many times with Johnny Gaudreau passing and his his unfortunate death this summer. The Detroit Red for the Stadium Series games, all the teams come out in special outfits. There's usually some type of gimmick behind what they decide to wear. For Detroit this year, they wore different jerseys of Johnny Gaudreau between his college jersey, some of his NHL jerseys. Obviously, they didn't wear the Columbus jerseys, but they wore Calgary. Saw a few Calgary jerseys, a lot of the Team USA jerseys that he wore. That was their tribute to them. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, they wore a typical Johnny Gaudreau pregame outfit, which was a sweatshirt that was for one of the companies that he would wear, and like these black sweatpants that he would wear. Johnny Gaudreau's wife, mother, and his 1-year-old baby led the team out for the game. Whew, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. It was something to say the least of how they honored Johnny Gaudreau. And then of course the Johnny Hockey chants start out in the middle of this thing. And when the Johnny Hockey chants started out, it just that got to us all. They did a little tribute to him. They had a Gaudreau banner flying across there. Sarah, how did all the stuff with Johnny Gaudreau? What did you think of it?
Um, Definitely felt weird. I mean, like in a good weird, well, whatever weird it is, but like it just because like like he should be there, and it's like it just sucks because he's not there. Like he would have loved this for sure. I think definitely both of the teams tying in to um honoring him. Like I think that's very, especially for Detroit, like they technically didn't have to go down that route, but the fact that they kind of found like a mutual point to do that, like I think that means a lot to not only just like Columbus, but like the entire league for sure. Like I think it was a very good sportsmanship from Detroit and Columbus, trying to because I mean, like all, the league always gets together, like when unfortunately, like whenever players or coaches pass away, and I think that's definitely something that's different. I mean, like every league does it, but I think like the hockey league does it in a very honorable way as well. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think what Detroit did it, and the Tuesday game, these two teams played Tuesday night in Detroit before that, and it was the mom's game for Detroit too. So they actually honored Johnny Gaudreau's mom at that game in Detroit. So here we are. This is pregame. This is us just walking into the stadium. You can kind of get an idea of what 94,000. There are 94,000 people there, ladies and gentlemen. It's the third largest hockey crowd ever to attend a game. The funny thing is, number one is not an NHL game. The number one now, both of these games were played at the Big House in Ann Arbor. The number two game is, of course, the number one NHL game, which is when Toronto played Detroit that year. But they kept the ice up, and Michigan State played Michigan, and that is the most attended hockey game that you have out there. So this is a little bit of the pregame shots. This is where the band was at over here. I think you can see my little mouse. So the band would come in over there. We'll see the band later on. This is where the ice. Columbus came out from over here. You can actually see some of the Detroit players. This is about an hour and a half before pregame. They are warming up over here. The game was supposed to start at 6 o'clock. It didn't start till 6:30 because we always talk about how the NHL screws things up, and this and I think I'm starting to understand too why baseball's leaving ESPN, and I think you might see NHL do something similar. This game was delayed because of the Tennessee Alabama game, which don't get me wrong, that was a great college basketball game. I saw some of the highlights of it afterwards, and I get it. But this was one of the premier events, and for this to get bumped basically to a later start time, all the pregame stuff they didn't even show on ESPN. They showed it on ESPN News. And not only that, they made us freeze outside for 30 minutes longer, which I think, Sarah, you would agree is probably what we were more upset about, that we were freezing our butts for no reason, because it was cold out there, and to make us wait for that was a little disappointing. This is the front of the stadium. You can kind of already see where they're getting really cold. But they did this too. This is normally not here on the stadium walls, but they put up this nice little stuff. I think we sat out here. The coldest that we were was waiting out here because the wind was funneling around the stadium. This was probably the coldest, at least that I was. I don't want to speak for you, Sarah. You might have been a little bit colder inside, but it's pretty cold there. All right. What do you think, Sarah? Was that your cold spot, or were you colder on the inside?
I mean, like when we were inside, there wasn't any wind. I think that's definitely something to mention.
Yes.
But I don't know. At this point, like cold is just cold, so I don't think there's any difference. Like the only thing is, like I could feel my feet when we were waiting outside because I was on my feet. I could not
Right.
feel my feet inside because I was not on my feet that much.
No, and yeah, once we
But
sat down, and these are all bleacher seats, ladies and gentlemen. So we're our butts are sitting on cold steel bleachers, and it just trickled right down. But anyway, so this is just before the game time. The Ohio State band, of course, did come out and do Script Ohio on the ice. Now, this isn't the typical Script Ohio that you see them do on the field, but still, they did it right. They led right into that. Oh, and Jeff here is coming, and I forgot the griddle. All
he
right, so yes,
forgot the griddle.
so I'll admit my ability to tailgate might be losing it some because I just don't get to do it that often anymore. But yes, I forgot the grill. But fortunately, we decided to do brats. So I had my cooktop and the onion. I did remember the onions and peppers this year when Jeff went with us to the year in Raleigh. I forgot the peppers, but everything was wrapped in foil. So I just put the foil right over top and I still was able to grill fine. Thank you very much. So,
For
but
sure.
here it is. There's the shot was this. This was honestly probably what I was waiting for the whole entire game was seeing the Ohio State band do the Ohio. Sarah, what did you think of your first experience of seeing the script Ohio done live?
I mean, it's on ice too. That's pretty impressive. Like, but yeah, this is my first Script Ohio. I'm very, very impressed. Dotting the I is my favorite part, obviously, but
It it was very cool. This was there's I try to always get the first puck drop, so this is right at puck drop, which was delayed till 6:30. And it was
mhm.
funny because we're sitting there watching the game live, and normally like when they finish the anthems and they're ready to go, like it's pretty much referee gets in center, they drop the puck, and there's these little things right here where the red lights are at. That's what signals that they can't drop the puck yet, and that was that way for like a good 4 or 5 minutes, and we're all just looking at each other. Okay, what the hell's going on? Why can't we drop the puck? I'm like, did ESPN really go to commercial? No, they didn't go to commercial. The basketball game hadn't ended yet, so they're making the players sit out there wait again in 27
Us
degree
wait.
temps. Wait, make us wait. Most importantly, this was Columbus coming out. You can kind of see them here. That's the Goudreau family right there. I know this isn't. It probably isn't showing up the greatest there to you guys. But it was just incredible, and this is some as they're coming out to warm up, so the stadium's starting to fill in pretty nicely. So do I have anything else here that I can put on? Oh yeah, so here, these are, these will be the last photos that I share. So this is us. And look, I admit I am very fortunate that what I've been able to do with my kids. One of them is go to a couple of these. So this is of
Mhm.
course from this year in Columbus. And look, I didn't have a true rooting interest. I cheered for Columbus because if you need a bandwagon team to root for, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Columbus Blue Jackets. There's just something about this team. They're just fun to watch. They just play really hard, and they weren't supposed to be here, especially with Johnny Hockey passing away. I don't think a lot of people thought that this team was going to do much. And this is us 2 years ago in Raleigh, and Jeff who commented, he was at this game with us too. So it was just a lot of fun, to say the least. So there's a little bit of that. So Sarah, I won't make you stay on for the basketball stuff. Anything else you want to add before you head out here?
No, I think we covered it all.
All
Um,
right, great.
okay.
Well, thanks for joining me, kiddo. So she just flew back from. She was here in my living room earlier this morning. Now she's back in Raleigh, North Carolina, ready to finish up ready to go do some schoolwork and stuff. So, all right, Sarah, I'll holler at you later, and thanks for joining me on Drive Time.
Of course. See you later.
There you go. So That's actually, I'm getting better at this, guys. Look at that. I actually had a guest come on here, actually showed some pictures. Like this is like starting to feel like almost like a real show, isn't it? So thanks to Sarah for coming in. I'd asked Jared to come in, but he doesn't want to. I wouldn't get him. He likes to laugh at me about being on here more than coming on here. So anyway, it's time to start getting closer to wrapping this up, and we are going to go down the road. What's coming up this week? This is where I was going to focus a little bit more on college basketball because there are going to be tickets punched to March Madness this week, and that's where the fun begins, right? So we have a total of one, two, let's see here. We got one, two, three. I'm going to bring this over here so my eyeballs look at least a little bit closer, like I'm looking at the screen here. The first one will be on March 8th. The Ohio Valley Conference will be punching their ticket into the March Madness. The number one seed is Southeast Missouri. They are 20-11. The Southern Illinois Edwardsville is the number two seed, also at 20-11. But Southeast Missouri had the better conference record. So this one will be our first ticket punched on March 8th. These are the games that these teams usually end up being the 13 through 12 seeds. But I got a few comments here. So let's see here. Jeff put in here, enjoyed having Sarah on. Yeah, I agree. That was kind of fun and special. I enjoyed that. Boss B says, you rolling, Matty. I love it. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And glad that you guys are enjoying the show. So let me come back over here. Next ticket punch, the Atlantic Sun. That's going to be on March 9th. We got 4 tickets that are going to get punched on March 9th. Lipscomb 22-9 is the number 1 seed. Northern Alabama 22-10 is the number 2 seed in that one. The Big South on March 9th. High Point, which is one of those teams, the mid majors are in the top 25. They're 26-5. They went 14-2 in their conference. They are the 1 seed. Number 2, UNC Asheville. We've seen them, all the time in the tournament. They're 20-10. The Missouri Valley also has, and these two I think are big because if you're a fan of these teams on the bubble, you want to see High Point win in the Big South and the Missouri Valley on March 9th. You definitely want to see Drake win that tournament. They're 27-3, 17-3 in the conference. They're non-conference. They roll through at 10-0. They're the 1 seed. They should win this tournament. But Drake is one of the top of the mid majors that are out there. That's a team that if you're rooting for any of these mid-level ACC teams or Big Ten teams that or whatever is the Big 264 now, those are the ones that you want to see not lose. So can Drake hold on and win that tournament on March 9th? That's going to be a big one for that because I think Drake is going to get in the tournament either way, even if they lose that game. I can't see them keeping out a Drake team with 4 losses. They played too well this year, so I think they're going to get in. The question is, does a second Missouri Valley team get in with them or not? You have the Summit Conference also on March 9th. The number 1 seed there is Omaha. They are 19-12, but they did go 13-3 in the conference. The number 2 is St. Thomas, who went 22-9 overall, but they only went 12-4 in conference play. So that one's going to be, they're just whoever wins that. They're like many of these. It's going to be the one that gets in, and that's going to be it. The Southern Conference on March 10th. The number 1 seed there is Chattanooga, and that they've been in the tournament a few times. They went 23-8. The number 2 seed is UNC Greensboro, 20-11. So they're going to be 2 teams to look out for. Probably one of those 2 will get in. The big conference that's going to be fun is the Sun Belt. Theirs is also on March 10th. They had 4 teams all finish at 13-5 in the conference. South Alabama is the current number 1. James Madison is the number 2 seed. Troy and Arkansas State all finished with the combined 13-5 records. They all won 20 games. Marshall was right behind them at 12-6 and 19-12. It's going to be interesting to see how many teams the Sun Belt gets in. I think they could get 2, especially if you get the top 4 seeds. If 2 of those teams make it into the final, I think 2 of them at least get in. But could 3 with how bad the ACC's been this year and even the big 264? Could 3 teams from the Sun Belt get in? It'll be fun to watch, but this is my favorite time. I actually like this week more. I love watching these smaller conferences where they know that the only way that they're likely getting in is if they win the tournament. So can they do it? So that'll be fun to see how that all plays out. All right, let's get into a little bit of baseball here before we wrap this up. And I'm sure this is going to be talked about tomorrow by the guys too, because this rings home for everybody in the Washington area. It was announced today that the Washington Nationals will finally be free from MASN, the MASN network. When the Nats came into the league, starting, they were basically dragged into this thing through from the Baltimore Orioles as kind of like the agreement to have them, which I never understood why Baltimore got so much power in the Washington Nationals, because every other big, the Mets and Yankees coexist, and they all have their own TV deals. The time when the A's were there, you had the A's in San Francisco very close by. They had their own TV deals. You have LA and the Los Angeles, California Angel, Anaheim Angels. They're able to coexist and figure it out. I never understood why Baltimore got so much power over the Washington Nationals and their TV rights. And this thing was in litigation forever, and it just didn't seem like there ever was going to be something figured out. But it was finally announced today that they signed a 1-year deal with Masson, basically that they're kind of sounds like they're forced to sign it. But then officially after this deal, they can finally go in 2026 to find their own deal. My guess would be the likely landing spot is the TV network the name of it draws a blank to me. So Jeff, if you're on it, I think you might know this, but the network that Ted Leonsis is the owner of the Capitals owns, that's probably going to be, I would imagine, the likely landing spot for the Washington Nationals in 2026. But they will be free and clear of MASN, which is good for Washington because they'll get way more of that TV money, where a lot of it went to the Orioles. The Orioles made a lot of money off the Washington Nationals, and they really, until the last couple of years, really didn't put a good product on the field for it, which really kind of ticks me off, if I'm being frank about it. But this is good for Washington. They also did announce that, sadly, Nationals Park will likely not be Nationals Park anymore. They did announce that they will be selling the stadium naming rights. I kind of am an old school baseball guy. I still kind of like it. It's just Wrigley Field, and I did like that it was still just National Park. But so that's likely going to change to whoever spends the most money gets to name it Park. Probably I would imagine that will also start in 2026. But in the long run, it's probably good news for the Nats. It gives them more money to feed in, where it may allow the Nats to do more on the baseball field. And that is always, a good thing too, right? Like, you want your team to be able to spend the money and do things. So I wish the Nats nothing but luck with that, because from my years in North Carolina, which I never figured this out either too. I lived in Raleigh, and the local sports network was Masson. So, which I couldn't figure out how Raleigh, North Carolina was got to be with Baltimore and Washington. But the good side of it was I got to see a lot of the Nats game when I lived there, which is kind of like why the Nats have always been my second favorite team. My true love is the Cleveland Guardians, obviously, but I like watching the Nats, and I think baseball is better when the Nats are good. So we'll see if these moves help. I am sure Midnight Rider will have a lot to add onto that as well. So a lot of good stuff, to look forward to this coming week. We're going to have a lot of these college basketball games. There's the NHL trade deadline is up to, I will try to keep everyone informed on any trades, through the 24/7, our website there. Boss BJ says, great show. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. We're going to try to be on next week. I might have to do, my wife is traveling to Boston next week. I'm super excited about this trip because I'm going to get to knock another NHL stadium out. We'll be going to TD Gardens on Tuesday night to see the Boston Bruins play. Obviously, the Red Sox are not playing live yet, but I did just schedule my Red Sox, my Fenway Park tour. So I won't get to check off Fenway Park for seeing it for a baseball game. We're at least going to get to see Fenway Park for the first time live. So I am looking forward to getting those two things done. But with that, she's got some stuff to do Monday night, so I probably won't be live on Monday, but I think I might try to do a tape show from the hotel room if I get that figured out. But if not, we will not be live at 5 o'clock on next Monday night. We'll be either doing a tape show or we'll replay maybe this one or a different, probably this one, because my daughter was on it, so this might be the one I choose to replay. But folks, this is your place to be for your sports talk, is the Sideline Junkies Network. We've got so many great shows up here. It's time to look here at our exit ramp. But that exit ramp is full with greatness, because tomorrow night the guys will be back on with you. for their Tuesday night show. They'll be breaking down all kinds of good stuff, I'm sure, and I'm sure the Nats moves will be talked about there in great detail too. You got the passenger seat with Jack on Wednesday, another great show for great interviews. It's a little bit more one-on-one, which I like. Thursday night, then we come back with you again, and then of course the guys on Sunday, and the best fictitious show on Saturday, the Gridiron that the Midnight Rider hosts. So this is the place to be, folks. What can I say? I appreciate you guys joining me. If you catch the show later, and if you got any comments on anything that we talked about, throw them in the comments. I'll see them and I'll comment on them. And heck, we can, if we get enough of those, I know the 5 to 6 time slots, a little off for some people, but it's what works for my home. So that's why we go with it. So anyway, as I always end the show with, hug your loved ones, tell them that you love them, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. So make sure that you do that. Hopefully you all be with us next week, or if not next week, we'll definitely do the week after. We've got to plan something big, because A, will be St. Patrick's Day. B, will be the day after the brackets come out. So who knows who will be a special guest on Drive Time. We might even have to do the show at a special time. How about that for a nice little teaser, huh? Yeah. I know you like that, didn't you? All right. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.